For more than 65 years, EDC has been helping Canadian companies grow internationally.
Hi, I'm Michael Toup. I'm the editor of ExportWise. With me today is Marie-Claude Arienne, EDC's expert on infrastructure and the environment sector. Marie-Claude has been working with Canadian companies to understand public-private partnerships and how they are changing the way these types of projects are done around the world today. Marie-Claude, what exactly are public-private partnerships, or P3s?
Well, in a sense, PPPs is a concept that was introduced in the early 90s as governments have the requirement to invest in infrastructure and upkeep those infrastructure. And the requirements of all the buildings for roads and bridges and hospitals is such that the public sector was trying to find a different approach where they engage the private sector with them in sharing some of the risk inherent in infrastructure projects, all the way from the beginning of the design, the construction, and even to the operation and maintenance side of a project. So in a sense, the PPP arrangement is the public sector, instead of being involved in the design, they tell to the private sector, here's what the asset needs to do in terms of capacity, service level, either be it for a road or for a hospital, that the outcome need to achieve. And on that basis, the private sector takes that into consideration, working with different stockholder and shareholder in delivering that kind of asset that would produce the right level of usage, service standard, and so forth. So in a sense, it's a sort of a win-win situation where the public sector gets an infrastructure that means the public needs. And on the private sector side, then they're given autonomy to develop and implement a project in terms of a cost. They're motivated to deliver on time, on budget, because the penalties are very important. And on top of it, often they will have a 30 or 20-year contract for the operation and maintenance of the infrastructure. Hence, they're motivated to ensure that the design and the material used will reduce the upkeep on terms of the operation and the maintenance of the project.
Well, that's a very interesting new way of doing these types of projects. Why has it become so important now?
That's a really good question. Government around the world generally have not invested as much as they should have on infrastructure, creating a huge infrastructure deficit. This, combined with the growth in population in emerging market and the global trade activity around the world, has an important impact in the ability of a country to grow economically and maintain a certain level of 2, 3, 5, 6% GDP growth annually. And the infrastructure is the key to their success. Estimates out there says it's about $40 to $70 trillion of investment required in infrastructure between 2010 and 2030. That's huge. And most governments don't have the capacity to support such investment. So the government have a need to work with the private sector to engage, to share not only the risk, but as well the financial requirement to fund those projects to meet the demand of tomorrow.
Well, the opportunity is absolutely huge. So what's in it for Canadian companies? How do they get in on this action?
Yeah, and that it's an area that maybe Canadians are starting to see it, because now in Canada we have an increased discussion in the news on P3 or PPP project, and therefore Canadians are sort of more aware of those new structure, which has been in place, like I mentioned, for close to 20 years now. What's important is, generally speaking, 2 or 3 large companies get together as a consortium to bid on this project. Not only, and these consortium have complementarity in terms of their technical competency, their know-how, and capability to deliver on it. And more importantly, they have the balance sheet to share the risk for executing the project. But because of the shifts happening, we see different kind of consortium or players that get together. And also it creates in a different way maybe of developing a relationship or executing on project in terms of the kind of supply chain you bring into to the fold. So Canadian company, particularly in our country, have a lot of small, medium-sized company who have a huge opportunity to get engaged. But that means they have to take a close look at what is their strategy right now to pursue infrastructure. To what extent is PPP would need to be reflected in their strategy, and hence maybe change or adjust their strategy, the kind of maybe relationship or new relationship they want to develop to secure a place in the supply chain for them. Let's not forget that on any project, generally the lead contractor will subcontract 60 to 90% of the project spending. And that's a huge opportunity even for the medium, small size enterprise in Canada.
Very interesting. Lots of opportunity there for EDC's clients and Canadian companies in general. Thank you very much, Marie-Claude. If you have questions or comments about the subject we've just discussed, please leave them in the comment box on the exportwise.ca website.